Hi, everyone. My name is Annalise Harris, and I am the Director of Communications and Social Media at Great Education Colorado. I am elated to bring on with me today in a great conversation the students from Dr. Martin Luther King Early College and who have created the Take. And it's an opportunity to hear from some students and their perspective on reparations. As you may know, Great Education Colorado has been committed to equity, and reparations is part of that conversation. Within our staff meetings, our coalition work, and internal work, we definitely want to increase awareness about how we can actually address and truly bridge the gap in funding, community, equity, and supporting this conversation on reparations for Black students in particular. I would like to now bring on the Take. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me today. I know you are in demand, and it's a beautiful thing to see. I have a few questions. First of all, I would love for each of you to tell me your name, your age, and grade. And if you have a hobby outside of all the work that you're doing, feel free to add that in, and any future plans you would like to contribute as well.
Sure, I can go first. My name is Kalia Yazar. I'm 15 years old, a sophomore at DMLK. I'm one of the co-hosts of the No Justice, No Peace podcast and one of the co-founders of the Black Student Alliance at our school. And I guess a hobby, I like to listen to music and paint.
My name is Alana Mitchell. I'm 17 years old. I'm a senior at DMLK. I'm also one of the co-hosts of the No Justice, No Peace podcast and the co-founders of the BSA. One of my hobbies would probably be volleyball.
My name is Janelle Nanga. I am 18 years old, and I'm also a senior at DMLK. I'm also a co-host and a founder, as well as one of the 4 student advisor directors for BH365. And I think one of my favorite hobbies would probably be YouTubing.
Thank you so much. And I know you all have another partner in this work that you're doing. And we just want to say thank you for your time. And I'm so grateful you could join in this conversation. Now, on to the meat. What is the No Justice, No Peace podcast?
The No Justice, No Peace podcast is a platform that we all use to advocate for our community, and we have 3 series. One of them, the first one was basically just the youth perspective on the minority experience in America. And then our second series was about trauma and education and how the two can play in. We also talked about mental health in that series. And then in the third series, we are talking about the No Justice, No Peace resolution that we got passed in October. And we're basically just trying to get it to stay alive because DPS got a new superintendent, and with that there could be miscommunications and stuff like that, and we just want to make sure that our resolution gets implemented and it's not just something that is words with no action behind it.
Thank you so much. And you brought up a good point. Just with a transition of leadership, oftentimes there are aspects of commitments that seem to be swept under the rug. So I'm very grateful again that you ladies have connected and are committed to continuing this work regardless of leadership, right? And even though we've seen the Black Excellence Resolution be implemented and passed and implemented it at this point almost 3 years ago, it's definitely important to have youth voices reminding us of our word and all of the values that we have claimed, right, to be important. And in regards to your work, I would love to know basically what fuels you. And sometimes the fuel is your opinion. Like, what is your opinion on reparations in particular?
I guess like, do you mean reparations like society wide or like within certain institutions like education or?
Well, in this conversation, you can absolutely address the larger scale, but also get specific in how reparations can be relevant in education. Absolutely.
I feel like with reparations, it's a very broad topic, but to be honest, I feel like the reason a lot hasn't come from the conversations because either people don't want to speak about it, they don't want to acknowledge it, or there's just not really a general consensus on what can be done about it. And I feel like just one major thing for me would be like it's almost hard to explain, but my opinion with reparations is that they should be met in some shape or form, whether it's through money or systematic changes or systematic benefits or things like that. I feel like there should definitely be something made, but it shouldn't just be a conversation where people keep bringing up the same points like, well, what about the statute of limitations? Slavery was hundreds of years ago. Or what about why should I give a Black person money because their ancestors suffered? Like all of these topics that people keep trying to come up with excuses for as to not, I guess, directly reference or talk about reparations. It needs to go beyond that because that's why it has to happen so far because nobody really wants to really get into it and make systematic change. So just my opinion with reparations, they're definitely necessary no matter what shape or form they come into. But the people in charge of how they become distributed and how people receive them need to come to a consensus and actually like get the opinion of Black people and get the opinion of everyone involved. So it's not just a bunch of white people deciding what Black people get because of how their ancestors suffered or in any like just general conversation.
I also, oh,
Oh, great. No, I was going to ask if anyone else had, something to add, and thank you. Go ahead,
yeah, I was just gonna say I definitely agree with Kalia, and specifically for something like education, and we all know that education is really something that plays a huge part in everybody's life. And for Black people's education to be so limited and to be so, I'm like at a loss for words, but basically stolen, I feel like. And for them to not be able to learn about their history or, things that are really important, it is a burden. And I feel like in that sense, reparations is definitely something that should be talked about. And like Kalia was saying, it definitely people need to come to a common consensus about it because I feel like, honestly, like she was saying, when people say that it's something that happened a long time ago, a lot of people understand that it's still systematic and a lot of things are still going on. Like, for example, Harvard had a study that said that in 2000, schools were more segregated than in 1970. And a lot of people would not be thinking like that or thinking about that, but it's true and it's really important because to think about that, I was just born 2 years later and growing up, this is history, like it continues.
Sorry, I'll let Alana go first. So I remember. Okay.
I was just gonna say I agree with Kalia and Janelle, and I feel like there should be reparations because it hasn't been that long, and we're still going through it now. Slavery is just modernized, so it's not like it just ended and we're just not, and there's nothing that we can do about it. There's ways that we can change it.
Yeah, I agree with like Alana, Jenna, everything that's been said. And I feel like it's really important, like how you just said, slavery is modernized. Like I feel like one example I can bring forward is like with Native Americans when the colonizers came here and put them through so much genocide, and our current government thinks that they're making up for it by letting them own their own land and have their own governments, thinking that they're repaying them the freedom that they took away, that they can literally, they think that they can never give back. It's like, you're not, like, I don't even know how to put it into words, but it's just like, just by modernizing something and thinking that you got past something doesn't mean that you're in the clear, or doesn't mean like, okay, but we made it up to you. In that same context with slavery, like mass incarceration, police brutality, how Black people are treated every day in society right now, slavery really hasn't changed. It's just been modernized and made into law and institutionalized. Nothing has really changed much except for how it's portrayed. And when it comes to history and education, like Janelle said, it's like it's like just stacking on top of each other, where number one, you're not even telling us the truth about how our society is working. And you're like, for example, in history books, when they put pictures from like the 1960s and 70s in black and white, it's a way of making us think that slavery was so long ago. But a lot of this stuff was happening when your parents or grandchildren, or your parents or grandparents were literally children, and they were seeing people getting lynched down the South, or they were turning on the TV and seeing people getting hosed by the police. Like, they put things in black and white and they make it seem like it was so long ago, so that we think that like it's gone, but it's not. And I just, number one, like what we're like with what we're doing by trying to get Black history accurately taught, that's a first step, because like that's not even the beginning of everything that needs to be done to truly pay social and educational reparations to Black people for all that we've suffered. Like number one, getting actual history, what we're supposed to be taught, is just the beginning, but there's so much more that still needs to happen, including reparations.
I am so inspired by your words and your assessment of the atrocities in our society. And I am just very proud. And I want to actually go back a little bit about the origin of your show. What is the reason, what made you really push for this? Because obviously you understand reparations. So like what or who was an influence in your exploration and discovery, and then I have a follow-up question to that. Any of you, you all could answer this. I'd love to know, a little bit more about how what you're able to share with me was influence, or how you learned about reparations, and then the travesties, of course, in our nation.
I feel like the very, very first thing that influenced everything was when Miss Grayson, our principal, took us out to DC, and we had our very, very last meeting. And in that meeting, we were all just talking about a lot of common disparities that we all have and are going through, and a lot of things that are in all of our lives and are burdens on all of us. And it was like a really heavy topic. So of course, a lot of us are really vulnerable. And we know that, especially in our community, that's not something that you see too often. And especially not with just a group of students that go to the same school that really never really even knew each other. And I feel like all of that just goes to say there's so much power in that, because to be able to bring that kind of bond and that kind of situation. And I know that I feel like every single one of us felt like we walked out as a family, and we got back on the plane from DC as a family. And it all just came from our experience, that one experience, and that one day at the museum.
Yeah, I don't think I could add anything more to like how we began. But honestly, a lot of the work we've done as a podcast and just as a group in general, especially when it comes to learning our own Black history, because we've been doing this work since October of 2019, and our resolution was packed in October of 2020 last year. So we've been doing this work around October of this year. It will be 2 years. And we're really just now starting to actually get the Black history we've wanted since the very beginning in our curriculum and all throughout DPS. And we're very grateful for that. But one of the disadvantages has been we've literally had to work outside, like besides the work that our teachers have done here at DMOK to include more Black history and Black representation in their curriculums, which we're very grateful for. But a lot of the like knowledge we've known ourselves, we've had to look at it outside of school because like I don't know how to explain it, but just like a lot of this work we've done, we haven't had the experience to learn it in our classroom. So like for me, learning about reparations, I had to do the research on my own because like something, I guess it's a controversial topic, but something as controversial as reparations, of course they're not going to teach it in schools. They're barely giving us reparations in our own history education. So it's like a lot of these things that really have all Black people involved, old Black people, young Black people, all Black people. I've had to do that research. I know we all probably have on our own because we're not being taught it in schools, like in general.
Absolutely agree. I would say I mean, it just depends on my friend group at the time or whatever I was doing in high school. But, I don't really recall reparations, the term at all, being brought up in regards to being owed to Black folks. And I did learn, however, of a number of different ethnicities in countries and even citizens in the United States receiving reparations for different acts committed against their communities, including white slave owners. So white slave owners did receive reparations for their loss in revenue when slavery was abolished, right? Formal slavery, as it was described in the Emancipation Proclamation, and what really was fought for and against in the Civil War. And there's obviously other communities, Japanese folks who endured internment camps were paid reparations, and the United States does pay a number of different countries some monies. Some Native communities have actually also received some compensation as well. Obviously, we know the respect and treaties that were written were disregarded for a lot of the Native tribes. But everyone, it seems like, has received something in regards to reparations. Not to say it has healed us, right? Because reparations, as we've learned, are typically in monetary form. But I'm looking for personally, I'm just going to add my opinion in here. And what I'm looking for in reparations is also an opportunity to heal as well. And we can't even heal until, man, I can afford to get to college. I can afford to get a house and not be discriminated against based on where I want to go and the type of lifestyle I want to live, nice house or what have you, and be able to afford the career that I want to do as in teaching, right? So it for me shows up in a number of different ways, absolutely. But and also being able to afford mental health services. So, for my own perspective and having been an educator, knowing the difficulties of figuring out how to, unfortunately, have to provide two different opinions on reparations in conversations, that's stressful because I'm like, whoa, I have to validate reparations for Black folks just because it's, as Clea said, controversial. Very frustrating personally. And I think Janelle and Clea may have mentioned this as well. Just, we are not far removed from the folks who endure Jim Crow laws and like the visual, direct impact. We're still impacted indirectly with some of the redlining and also the unfortunate bias and prejudice that exists. So for me, reparations starts with some money, but it continues on in an opportunity to heal. And as an educator, I do believe education can help heal. And I really admire your work, ladies. And I want to know a little bit more about what you envision is a quality curriculum that would possibly suit your needs and those that and everyone in education, right? So you're pushing for the resolution to be enacted in DPS, and for us to see ourselves in the curriculum. So do you have an idea of what that looks like for yourself? Like, what are some things that should be included? Do you have a reference that you could mention for us?
I guess I can start.
Everybody. Go ahead.
I guess to start, there's a lot of things that needs to be done in general. Like, just off the bat, whatever progress we like the education system thinks that it's made is like maybe like half a step in the right direction towards like a 1,000-mile journey. Well, honestly, like right now we're working with this company, Black History 365, which basically has this amazing Black history textbook. And it just basically not only does it like as a book itself defy what a textbook is and kind of eliminates that stereotypes that textbook are like a billion pages long, boring, like just not it. Like they defy all of that. It's not like before you even go to the content, it's just so amazing in general. And then like the history that's taught, it doesn't just start in slavery like so much Black history education does. Like it starts all the way back in ancient Africa. And actually one of the authors of the book, Dr. Joel Freeman, he was born in Canada. And the book even goes all the way into how like slavery and everything with Black history moved all the way into Canada. And it isn't just like, okay, Black history starts here in America with slavery, because that's not true. And it's just an amazing book in general, and we're so glad to be able to work with them. But I guess just to answer the question, what a good curriculum, like not only being secure in my own history, where it's like one day when I'm an adult, I'll just start learning about something that I should have learned when I was like 14, 15 years old, like I am right now. Like I should not only be solid in who I know myself as a person, as a Black person, know my history, know where I came from, be proud of where I came from, and be able to learn about the people around me, because I feel like that's one reason a lot of white people find themselves so ignorant when it comes to Black history and the history of other minorities, is because whether they want to admit it or not, or whether they're just realizing it now, history is severely whitewashed. Like when you're talking about minorities, white people still somehow get involved, whether it's through the pain we've been put through or all of the good things that we come from. There's always a white person involved or put in like a bit of a savior position. And I just wish the history curriculum, like in general for all students, would be allow students to be secure in their own history, but also be actually knowledgeable about their fellow peers and everybody, and not just how white people interact with their history.
Is that a mic drop? That's a boom. Aaron, we're done. Well, on that note, absolutely. I just, again, your perspective is very refreshing and insightful. Man, in my experiences as an educator, I kind of forgot how I was in high school a little bit, so I'm not going to go that far back. But I can say that in the work that I've had to do in researching, best practices and inclusive work in the classroom, and obviously I work outside of the classroom as well, and am intentional about working in the community. But the studies actually are showing and indicating that white students benefit when Black students are part of their schools and around them, or are learning, about more than just them, a very white Anglo-centered curriculum, right? Because it stretches them. Just like in my experience, probably similar to what you were frustrated before you realized you were learning, was it's very white centered. So we have to stretch. And when there's a lack of representation, it takes some mental gymnastics to find relevancy, right? And so without that relevancy, it can be discouraging. And as we've seen the gaps in education existing, partially because who's relating to it? So, you're going to be able to learn about doing things for yourself when it looks like it's relevant to you. So even white students learning or non-Black students learning about Black history and its impact and the relevancy, they're going to benefit too, right? So anytime we can uplift the Black community and make sure what Black voices and perspectives are highlighted, celebrated, and supported, everyone benefits. And that goes also beyond just in the classroom. That's in work done throughout the community as well, right? So anyway, I just love talking with y'all, hearing from you. And do you have any, call to action, any way that we can support your work and or upcoming events?
You guys can actually go subscribe to our new YouTube channel, No Justice, No Peace, The Take, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at No Justice, No Peace, but it's just the KJKP, The Take, and that is our Instagram and Twitter handle. And then our Gmail is No Justice, No Peace, The Take at gmail.com. And just tune into the podcast, try and educate. Definitely check out Black History 365 because it's an amazing textbook. And, speak up.
Well, thank you again, ladies. It has been a pleasure chatting with you. Any final words or any words of encouragement? We have two seniors here repping class of 2021. And we have, sophomore class 2023 coming. Any words of encouragement for that freshman class that's coming, or, current high school students who might actually watch this? What would you say to them and encourage them to, pick up your baton and carry on the work?
I would definitely say one to incoming freshmen. Your freshman year is your most important year, so have your head on straight from the jump. And also know that you can do a lot of stuff in your school and you can really create so much change within your school. Like, I kind of wish we were in school and it wasn't Corona season, because I feel like we would have been able to have so much more of an impact and, actually been around the community more. And I feel like freshman students should not underestimate themselves, or just any students in high school in general should not underestimate the power within their voice or anything like that. Stand up for the things that you want and definitely keep fighting.
I think just advice in general is from me, a sophomore. I'm a sophomore. I finished my freshman year last year. But I definitely would just say, just come into it with the right mindset. And like, coming from middle school, for me, middle school was pretty easy. So like, it was kind of hard for me to come into high school with the mindset that it's going to be different from middle school, because it definitely is. But just make sure you have a good work ethic in general. And like, for example, with us, or just any activism in general, if you're passionate about something, don't think that your voice doesn't matter, and just don't think that you can't contribute to the conversation, because everybody can contribute something to the conversation. And like, just really speak your truth. Don't let anybody silence you, and just advocate for what you know is right.
Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. I know there's an upcoming event, and depending on when people see this, they should have some time to RSVP. So you all are being host to a cool event for the curriculum you were describing, right? The let's see, No Justice, No Peace team is hosting an album listening party with Kevin K.O. Cates with Black History 365 Education. And that is on February 26th from 2 to 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. and RSVPs are still available. I'm going to share my screen here so I can hopefully it's the right one. Nope, of course not. Give me a second here. I'm going to stop sharing. Let's see. I don't know where it went. Too many tabs open, folks, but here you go. You can RSVP for this party, and it's a listening party. To my understanding, the little birdie told me this party is to highlight the album that goes along with the curriculum, and each chapter of the curriculum has some songs that are connected to it as well. And so this is an opportunity to check that out. And let's see, I think we got it now, hopefully. Let's see, I'm gonna share this. And nope. Nope. This it's not working. I apologize in advance. I'm trying to get this the right picture up, but let's see. Hold on, ladies. I'm sorry. Oh gosh, it's a little embarrassing here. So I literally have the tab up. I'll have to edit this out. There it is. Okay. The tab is live. Black History Listening Party with Denver Public School District, celebrating Black History Month with hip hop and history. Multi-platinum Grammy nominated producer, Friday, February 26th. Definitely can still RSVP in time and listen to this amazing album and collaboration with 365, Black History 365. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me, ladies. And I appreciate your words of encouragement to our up and coming generations and current youth who are leading the charge and, working with an amazing amount of energy and tenacity. Declaring, and the little steps are not enough, right? You're pushing it to where we will really see some changes enacted and hopefully be able to sustain that for the long term, right? With that, I am going to have a sign off and stop the recording. Hold on.